Hi guys, and welcome to lesson 3 where we are playing through the changes. So we have a path through the changes. So rather than thinking D minor 7, G7 to C major 7, oh my word, so many notes to choose from. What we're doing is targeting specific notes, but not just targeting thinking, but learning to hear those notes. Okay, so the note, you can do it on any note, you know, if you want to target the root, the 5th, the 7th, the 6th, the 9th. Okay, you can, but today I'm targeting the 3rd because it is the most melodic note, you know, out of, if you took a C major chord and a C minor chord, there's only one note in there that's the difference, and it's the 3rd. Okay, it's a very powerful note, one of the guide tones along with the 7th. We'll talk about that at a later date. But by targeting the 3rd, this is a big ingredient into helping you play melodic jazz lines. Okay, so targeting the 3rd is learning to hear the 3rd, and then gradually we're going to target by not by one note, not by two notes, but by 3 notes. Okay, so like I say, I found it incredibly valuable for me. Note, you do need to know the chords. Obviously, you need to know the 3rd of each chord. So for this exercise, for this lesson, all I'm doing is the first 8 bars. So you're not having to, so that's what we're doing, just so the first 8 bars. If that is too much to think of straight away, you can even, you know, put it into manageable chunks more and only do the first 4 bars. Okay, just target the thirds of the first 4 bars, learning to hear them. Okay, and then with the backing track, do it with the second 4 bars. So you obviously you'll have to listen to the first 4 bars doing nothing, and then target the 3rd of the bars 5, 6, 7, and 8. I hope that makes sense. So you're putting it into manageable chunks. Okay, straight away you might be able to just, it's only 8 notes to remember, isn't it? So we're targeting the 3rd. Okay, so here we go. Activity 1 on the Etude, just playing the 3rd, nothing else but just playing the 3rd of the first 8 bars. Okay, let's see how that sounds. Okay, so you have just played through targeting the 3rds with the backing track. Okay, so what you need to do is do that over and over and over again until you can do it without reading the music. You need to at first memorize those notes and then do it where you're just hearing those notes, and it just feels easy and natural to do it. Okay, something else you can do once you've got that sound of the 3rd in your ear is sing it. Sing the 3rd along with the backing track. Okay, and that will help your oral abilities as well. Okay, the next activity that we're going to do is approach the 3rd from below by 1 quaver. Okay, and this is what gives us the ability to start hearing ahead. Da-da, ba-dee, da-dum, ba-dum. Okay, so let's have a listen to that activity. Activity number 2. And then also activity number 3 on the sheet is approaching from above. Da-da, ba-da, da-dum, ba-dum. Not sure if that singing is 100%. Okay, we will need to practice more. Okay, so try and, as well as play those exercises, sing those exercises too. But please don't be tempted to move on to approaching from above or below by 1 note until you absolutely nailing without looking at the music and you can remember those notes. And then when you can really hear it, that's when you start adding the or the more you do this, it just really helps with the developing the ability to hear that third, and bouncing off that third is such a powerful thing to do. You know, if you look at your favorite players and you look at the transcriptions of those, you'll find that they are hitting the third a lot. Anyway, let's have a listen to how that sounds. So by now, you should fluently really be hearing those thirds. Okay, this might take longer than one practice session, 2, 3. I don't know. It depends on your ears. It depends on how much of this type of listening and oral skills you have already developed. But this will really help you hear through the changes. It's impossible to hear 4 notes at the same time. You can hear a block chord and think, yes, that is a minor, that is a major, that is a diminished, but you can't tell which, you can't hear all of them and decide what you're going to play. You need to target one note, and by targeting the third, like I say, it gives you the biggest melodic possibility. Okay, so we've done just the third, and then we've approached it from below and above with one note. Now we are going to approach with 2 notes. Okay, so again, you need to be fluent at just the third, and then approaching one above and one below before you attempt to start. Yes, or okay. So let's have a listen to how that sounds. So now we are on to activities 6 and 7, where you've guessed it, is 3. We're doing 3 pickup notes. Okay. It's quite easy on the pickup notes going up because you start on the note that you left off. So if I do the pickup note going to the F natural, the 3 notes before the B is the F natural. Okay, so that will definitely help you. The thirds coming down, that's a bit more tricky because you have to start on the 6th of whatever that chord is. Notice I did an F natural and an F sharp. If you want to do the A6 with the A sharp with the F sharp, you can. Okay, but if you want to also do the F, that's fine too. It depends whatever your ear is drawn to. Okay, so once you've got the 6th one down, actually thinking about it, it's like a continuous rundown. So okay, that's what happens when you're doing the cycle of fourths. Okay, all the things you are is a little bit like that as well, because it just keeps doing lots of 2-5-1s or going to the next, 4 up, like a cycle of fourths, like I say. Okay, so the more you practice that, again, try it singing as well. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. La 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 la. 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 La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la. Okay, so I'm not the best singer really, but it just helps if you can get that sound very, very strongly in your head. And then, as you'll find out in a minute on the Etude, it's a great note to bounce off. Okay, we're not always going to be doing this, obviously. This is just a means to an end. This is just practicing improvisation. When you're actually up there, you're not going to be thinking, right, this is all I'm going to do. There's so many other things that come into it. This is just a way of practicing. And then, as I've said in the other lessons, then when you improvise, you just try and play what you hear. But this is a great way of developing the ability to hear good stuff to play. Okay, so the way that we practice is the most important thing, and practicing like this is going to give us a nice melodic bass, if you like, a nice melodic bass to bounce off. Okay, so let's have a listen to the Etude that I recorded, approaching 3 from below and 3 from above. Here we go. Okay, so activity 8 is an etude built off everything that we've covered so far. Okay, so what have we covered so far? We've covered the chord notes. The taster session covered using syncopated jazzy rhythms. Last lesson covered scales, and this lesson covered approach notes. So that's 4 very, very good ingredients to a solo. So if you play through the etude a few times, okay, it's not going to break any records for being the most fantastic, amazing jazz solo, but you would agree it does sound quite melodic. It does have some nice rhythms in it, and it's playing the changes, which is what we are trying to develop. Like I say, it's just an etude again to try and develop what we're learning. So it would be great if you can start trying to put your own etudes together, or improvisations, I should say. You could, if you want to, try and write something out using the techniques that we've learnt so far. You know, think of the chord notes. That's going to help by seeing them, and then make sure you play your say if you do it 4 bars at a time, play through it a few times. What does it sound like? What do you like about it? What don't you like about it? Okay, because if you think, really, jazz improvisation is composition in the moment with the skills that we have learnt by our ear. When we're sitting down doing the etudes or writing 4 bars, you know, that's more like composing, and you have time to reflect and think, not quite sure about that. But in jazz, yeah, if it's a mistake, just move on, okay, if you do make a mistake. But practicing this way really helps you play great rhythms, playing the scales, hitting the chord notes, and targeting. You're learning to hear where you want to go. Okay, so don't worry if you can't put all that together. I know some of you early stages of improvisation, this takes time. It takes time. So there's been many times I've been wanted to throw my trumpet out the window or smash it against the wall. Such has been my frustration, but you mustn't do it. You mustn't do it. Okay, you'll regret it if you do. So just be patient with yourself and only focus on one thing at a time in your practice. And it's like a holistically, I love that word, because whilst you're practicing one thing and then you go on to the other thing's not going to go away. If you've built that up, that's still that's gonna be there quite nicely. So say that was your chords. Yes, I'm very fluent with my chords now. And then, right, I'm really going to work on 4 rhythms. Okay, so that's there. That's always going to be there. Okay, if you've really developed those chords and then those rhythms up there, and think, right, fantastic. Now I'm going to think about the scales. And then they all complement each other. Everything goes into the melting pot. And the more you practice it, each one, and then try and improvise. So the worst thing you can do is just sit there and try and improvise over and over and over again and expect it to get better. You must practice improvisation and not just improvise, if that makes sense. So by practicing improvisation, you're targeting 1, maybe 2 things at a time. Okay, but I can guarantee you, if, say, at the end of next week, you record yourself playing your own improvisation of Autumn Leaves, okay, and then keep doing this practice over and over and over again, in 6 months' time, record yourself again and compare the two. And I think you'll be amazed, because it is amazing, because I could sort of think back, you know, a few years back, and my ability to improvise and play melodic lines now has improved massively from what it was even 5 years ago, practicing this way. Okay, so it works, but it takes time. It's, you know, think of it like raindrops. Every time you practice, it's just pitter patter, pitter patter, pitter. Okay, and the more it rains, or the more you practice, the more you develop. Okay, so let's have a listen to the etude that I have created. Okay, look through the etude and think, oh right, okay, yeah, he's using the chords there. He's using some rhythms there. He's using the approach notes there. Okay, I've just tried to, like, as I say, put it into a bit of a mixing pot, and that's what came out for this particular etude. But so play, like I say, play through it a few times, but then try and create your own, okay? But please don't be frustrated if you can't do something like mine straight away, okay? No one's expecting you to. Just try and maybe do an etude just with the scales and the approach notes. And yeah, okay, one thing just before I play this, one thing that you'll notice about my etude, there is a nice use of space, okay? It's not just dooba 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 dooba. There's some nice space, you know, and we need space in the solos too. So that is just something extra to think about. And there are techniques that I can teach you later on how to use space in your solos. Okay, so let's listen to my etude and see how we get on. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed this lesson. Remember, it takes more than a week to develop these skills. Okay, you could be practicing Autumn Leaves for the next month, 2 months. Okay, just doing everything that we've been going over, and you should. Okay, but we'll move on to a new tune maybe in a couple of weeks, and it will still be the same type of techniques, but obviously different chords, there'll be so many different things that we can work on and think of, but all with the emphasis on developing our listening, thinking about what we're doing, but really concentrate on what we are hearing and developing that ability to play what we hear. Okay, so I'll see you in the next lesson. Bye for now.